At the same time, turning our sights here, Eric Adams, one of the luckiest people in the world that everybody's attention is diverted, because the details of what's happening to him right now are insane. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. Eric Adams is currently being investigated by the FBI as to whether he cleared red tape for the Turkish government. So the details here are that after winning the 2021 Democratic mayoral primary, Eric Adams successfully pressed city officials to allow the opening of a Manhattan high-rise housing the Turkish consulate general. This alleges that Eric Adams, weeks before his election, pressured the New York Fire Department to sign off on the Turkish government's new high-rise consulate in Manhattan, quote, despite safety concerns with the building. After winning the primary in July, Adams contacted then the fire commissioner in late summer of 2021 and urged him to allow them to occupy the building at least on a temporary basis. Quote, the unusual intervention by Mr. Adams is being examined as part of a broader public corruption investigation by the FBI and federal prosecutors in Manhattan that led to the seizure of the mayor's electronic devices by federal agents earlier this week. And Mr. Adams' intervention paved the way for Erdogan, quote, whose fondness for massive building projects is well known in Turkey, to then preside over the grand opening of a $300 million 35-story tower on his September 2021 visit to New York for the UN General Assembly. So let's again just lay it all out. Eric Adams, after he wins the primary, calls the New York Fire Department, tries to issue a temporary building permit to the Turks so the Turks can open up this building so that when Erdogan comes to New York, he can stand in front of said building and be like, cool, look at this awesome new building that we have in New York City. I think those are the overall details. Now, to be clear, what they are investigating is, did any money change hands? I personally just don't believe that Eric Adams is such a great friend of the Turkish people that he was doing this for free. But that's just me. What do you think, Krystal?
So apparently the warrant, so there were two raids. There was a search of his 25-year-old fundraiser, Brianna Suggs, and then there was the seizing of his phones. And apparently the warrant to search the home of the fundraiser focused on this fundraising event that they had on May 7th. On that day, 48 donors, including the owners of this KSK construction company, employees and their families, along with others in the industry, donated $43,600. And this fundraiser was organized by Turkish immigrants. I believe this KSK construction company is owned by Turkish immigrants. So this fundraising event, everybody throws in a lot of money, 48 different donors. And then when you get that money in New York, you get public matching funds. So it actually doubles the amount of money into Eric Adams' campaign. So yeah, basically the idea is that either the campaign contributions led to this treatment, special treatment for this Turkish building, enabling Erdogan to come and do the grand opening, et cetera, et cetera. It's also worth noting, like, this is actually sadly consistent with Erdogan's record in Turkey as well, where you recall they had that horrific earthquake. And part of why they had such a high death toll was because he had aggressively pushed a lot of shoddy construction that wasn't up to code and that crumbled in the earthquake. So it is a little too on the nose for him as well. But apparently Adams, this is all just so classic New York. Apparently Adams' relationship with the Turkish immigrant community goes way back. As Brooklyn borough president, he actively wooed wealthy members of the Turkish community in South Brooklyn. So apparently they were trying to return the favor, and he was trying to return the favor. Of course, he denies that there was any funny business here, et cetera, et cetera. But this is one of those stories that if it was another time, I mean, think of the headlines, wall-to-wall covers, the mayor of New York, who was so celebrated by the media at the time when he was elected, having his phone seized by the feds, and his top fundraiser having her house raided by the feds. Pretty wild what's going on here.
Yeah, apparently the consular building is the most expensive foreign mission in the history of Turkey. Its curving facade, inspired by the crescent on the Turkish flag, with its tulip-shaped top, a nod to the country's national flower. The building includes not only consular offices, but apartments, a prayer room, an exhibition space, and auditorium, according to its architects. And the reason, again, why he had to intervene is because it was July and Erdogan was coming in September. And And I think if you trace it back to his ties to the wealthy Turks in New York City that are there already, and apparently some previous trips that he's taken there over the time, he again is not just doing this out of the goodness of his heart. It was clearly, at the very least, I think something was going on. It also calls into question, as you alluded to, the investigation to one of Eric Adams's actual fundraisers. Let's put this up there on the screen because this is a really crazy story. The top fundraiser for Mayor Adams, as Brianna Suggs, was actually raided by the FBI days before all of this happened, where again, there were, quote, addressing a matter, and that they were seizing some materials in an investigation about the donation of this construction company. But what's really nuts is about Eric Adams' possible intervention and knowledge of this, because let's put this up there, please. The NYPD was actually sent to this woman's home hours ahead of the FBI raid in a probe of this Campaign Cash for Turkey investigation for, quote, a wellness check. A move that people say is very unusual. Obviously, you don't say a wellness check unless it's somebody who is like usually elderly. The NYPD then showing up, giving a wellness check, possibly a tip-off, possibly taking some stuff out of there maybe, or making it, easier in order to get rid of evidence. There's a lot of different possibilities that open up as to why the city-controlled NYPD would even be doing something like that hours before the FBI rolls into the house to try and seize campaign-related documents and electronic records that are directly related then to this broader investigation, which is tied to Eric Adams now, the freaking mayor of New York.
Right.
So this is wild.
And they have a quote from a former federal law enforcement official in that news piece that says, a wellness check requested at an address with unidentified occupants is highly unusual, and that it suggests a leak about the investigation. So not only do you have the actual allegations here as reported by the New York Times about, this whatever was going on with the Turkish government and this building and these fundraisers and looking into that. Again, no charges have been filed yet. They're just asking questions and seizing phones and doing raids, no biggie. But then you also have the whiff of a potential attempted cover-up here in terms of this quote-unquote wellness check. So that's kind of the state of affairs for Mr. Adams.
Certainly not looking good right now, I think, for Mr. Adams.
Remember when he was going to be the future of the Democratic Party?
Well, I think he screwed himself on that one for several fronts. This one is only the nail in the coffin.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.